So how to get lean abs? In other words, how do you get your body fat percentage low enough for your abs to finally become visible? And maybe you've never seen your six pack before. Maybe it's been covered by layers of body fat for years now, could be even decades. And how do you do this in a smart way? Especially if you've been failing and trying for years, you want to avoid those mistakes. Well, that's exactly what this video is for. I'm going to lay out 5 steps for you, 5 simple steps. This is your action plan. If you follow these 5 steps, you're going to get abs, period. Now, for those that haven't got the memo on how this actually works, first and foremost, you're not able to specifically target and burn the fat that's in your midsection and just keep everything else the same. That's not how it works. Spot reduction is a myth. How you burn fat and where you store fat to begin with is genetically determined. So you have to get overall leaner to get rid of all the fat, and eventually the fat that's covering the abs will go away as well. Second, fat burners do not work. You don't need them. Skip them, eliminate them, hide all the random nonsense ads. Just follow these 5 steps that I'm going to give you here. On top of that, if you're interested in not just getting abs, but actually staying lean, then you're talking about a lifestyle change. A diet can get you lean for sure. 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, you sacrifice, you get there. But if it's a diet, you're very likely to regain the weight, and that's not really what you want. If you want to actually stay lean, then you're talking about lifestyle change, building habits, and that is very difficult to do. And this whole process is very difficult to do to begin with. So I'm not going to tell you it's easy because that wouldn't be the truth. So I'm telling you it's going to be hard, but I can simplify it for you. So let's dive into the 5 steps. Step number 1, create a calorie deficit. Now, I know you heard this a million times, but there are thousands of different ways to create a calorie deficit, and not all calorie deficits are created equally. So there are smarter ways and there are dumber ways to create a calorie deficit. If you go on a crash diet that has you eating 500-600 calories a day, well, that's not the smartest way to create a calorie deficit. Equally, if your diet is full of junk food, processed foods, well, that's not the smartest way to approach this whole thing. There are a couple of rules that I want you to keep in mind when creating a calorie deficit that will work for you specifically. Number 1, make sure you create a calorie deficit eating foods that are healthy, unprocessed foods, but that you find enjoyable so that you feel the least restricted. This is critical. That could be a low carb approach, could be a higher carb approach, but it must be something that you find least restrictive. Number 2, don't go too crazy with the calorie deficit. Make sure you're losing at a moderate rate, somewhere around 1 pound to 2 pounds a week. And as you get closer to those abs, 10% body fat, well, it's going to be closer to 1 pound. Could be even a less than 1 pound for a couple of weeks as you get rid of that last bit of stubborn fat. The process naturally will slow down. Expect that. Don't go too crazy because you're simply just going to accelerate muscle loss. Number 3, make sure you're accountable and that you keep a food log. You can use an app like MyFitnessPal or any of the other apps around, but you do want to make sure you're tracking your food intake, measuring things out, doing your due diligence on your foods, making sure that you're not just saying you're in a calorie deficit, but you're actually in a calorie deficit. And if you do a really good job with this, you will do an amazing job at fat loss. It's so important to keep a food log because then you can troubleshoot, you know what changes need to make, you know what amount of calories are in certain foods. I can't recommend this enough. If you haven't tracked your food already, make sure you start doing that right now. Step number 2, get your protein. I see so many people slacking on their protein intake and then simply wondering why they're not getting very impressive results. I recommend 1 gram per pound of your target body weight as a starting point. And same as you are tracking your calories, as we previously mentioned, you can also track your protein intake to make sure you're getting enough of protein. It's not just there to keep you full, and does a great job at satiety, but it's also there to make sure you can preserve all the lean muscle you have now, and also that you have the building blocks to build more muscle, especially as a beginner who can build muscle while losing body fat. Step number 3, make sure to go below this video right now and smash and destroy that like button as hard as possible. It really helps a lot to see your support and also helps the algorithm push this video out to help more people get lean. So please go ahead, hit that like button. Moving on to step 3, you want to make sure that you're training to build muscle. In practice, what this means is progressive resistance training. This can be at the gym, this can be at home, this can be calisthenics anywhere, but you want to be resistance training. This is essential because it's not enough just to strip away all the body fat. You have to have something to show when you get that lean. And it really also helps with this to keep a workout log as well. Same as you're tracking your food, now you're tracking your training. And with training, you can go to beat the logbook. So every time you're progressively challenging your body more and more, so the body is going to adapt by building a little bit more muscle. Of course, I'm not saying become a professional bodybuilder, but I'm saying build more muscle, get stronger. You will notice a huge difference in your results, and the speed at which you're achieving those results is going to be dramatically different when you have more muscle. Extra tip here, don't neglect training your abs. I see a lot of people skipping their ab training, and then they're not able to see those abs very clearly until they gotta get super shredded to get them to be visible. So if you're training your abs like any other body part, hitting them 2-3 times per week, adequate volume, intensity, good form, what's gonna happen is those abs are gonna become more visible at a higher body fat percentage, which is really good for you because you don't have to get as lean to get your desired look. I highly recommend don't skip your ab training, don't skip your legs either, and make sure you're properly training your body, all the major body parts, hitting them properly, being progressive, beating the logbook, and you're gonna see some exceptional results. Step number 4, create a more active lifestyle. My favorite activity to do this is walking. I aim to walk 10,000 steps per day when I want to get abs. I've done several videos on walking that I'm going to leave in the description below, which I highly recommend you check out, where I go over different ways I do walking. It helps me create that calorie deficit easier, recover better from the workouts, I sleep better, I'm able to keep up with my reading habit because every time I walk and I'm also listening to an audiobook, it is extremely effective. Now, if 10,000 steps a day is a lot for you, you can start with 6,000 steps a day, start with 7,000 steps a day. You can do a bit more on the weekends. Make your lifestyle more active. You have 168 hours a week, same as I do. You don't want to be in a situation where you're spending 4 hours training and the other 164 hours on the couch or sitting on your chair working. You want to make sure you're creating an active lifestyle. Does that have to be walking? Not necessarily. It can be other sports, can be playing with your kids, can be doing hiking, can be doing anything that makes you more active. You want to move, especially as you're getting leaner and leaner. This helps a lot to ensure that you are still able to create a calorie deficit at a decent enough amount of calories so you're not starving yourself. So be more active. Step number 5, dial in your sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, what happens is you got higher hunger levels, more cravings, you're less likely to lose fat and more likely to lose more muscle, and you're also gonna suffer psychologically when it comes to making food decisions throughout the day. You're much more likely to have a slip up, end up binging, end up falling off track if you're sleep deprived. So it makes a lot of sense to dial in sleep. It's like trying to swim and you have an anchor tied to your ankle. It just wouldn't work in practice. So you want to make sure you have at least 7 hours, ideally 8 hours of sleep. Make sure that you're also creating a pre-bed ritual, taking this seriously, getting in a constant rhythm where you're going to bed at a similar time, waking up at a similar time, really prioritizing sleep as something that is essential and is a part of your routine. You're definitely going to notice high energy levels. You're going to be able to offset a lot of those adaptations that happen as you're dieting, because naturally, as you're dieting and as you get leaner and leaner and you get into a deep calorie deficit, your sleep quality can also degrade. So if you have already bad sleeping habits as you get into this, combined with being in that calorie deficit and getting leaner, you're going to create a disaster. So you do want to make sure you start working on your sleep from day one, immediately, right now, and you're going to start reaping some major benefits. Now, a bonus step here. Think about this as consistency over perfection. This is not a journey of linear progress. This is going to test you. This is going to require a lot of patience. It's going to require a lot more time than you think it is. You probably have more fat than you think you have. And you have to be in a mindset of improvements over time. It's okay to fall off track. Staying off track is a problem. Get back on there, plow through, move forward, iterate, keep improving yourself, and you will get to this goal. The other thing that's going to help you is making sure you subscribe below to the channel. Make sure you enable notifications by hitting that bell icon. If you want to work with me personally as your coach to get my guidance on this journey, link is in the description. I'll leave a couple of videos here at the end for you as well, and I will see you in those next videos.